Go ahead and get us started. So welcome everyone who's here. This is our free Zoom that we're going to try to keep about 30 minutes tonight, just so you can quickly get some information and run with it from there. Oh, Gina is on. We are here tonight to offer you some tips. I'm getting some feedback from somebody's mic, so.
Let's all mute unless we're speaking.
Okay, yeah. So we're here tonight to offer you some tips from our experiences living our lives as professionals, as well as, busy parents who are trying to balance it all. Welcome tonight to hear this. I'm Kate Taylor. I kind of needed this call more than anybody else because I have two daughters. One is 7 and one is 11 going on 18. She'll be 12 this month. And I'm dealing with a lot of tween emotions over here at the house. And I've found myself feeling like, wait, I know all these tools and I know how to help parent this child, but as a mother, I get clouded with my emotions and clouded with all of the things that I'm trying to make happen rather than just let them be. So I reached out to these wonderful women on our team. They're part of my Shackley community. So I run a Shackley business along with being a music therapist, and I have been a music therapist for about 20 years now. So I work currently as an expressive therapist at a behavioral health hospital where I see adolescents and children dealing with some big emotions. And I see what resources they have and what resources they might be lacking from either their home life or their life at school. And we pulled this together for you tonight so that we could give you the tips that we have found work the best, not only with the clients that we've served, but with our own families. And I think that's the true testament to how things work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over, tips ranging from nutrition to sleep to behavioral health. And we're going to kind of highlight our expertise. I'll start by introducing Kristen Jakubowski because her face is up on my screen. So Kristen has been a therapist in the field for, I think, 15 years experience you had, Kristen. You are currently stay-at-home mom working at home with her active Shackley business. She has 2 girls, 9 and 6, and is retired as a nationally certified rec therapist. So recreational therapies, we're going to get tips from her. She's worked with a variety of clients as well as inpatient, outpatient at therapeutic day schools, and has led a department of expressive therapists. So a lot of even managing adults kind of experience, which is helpful in the emotional world. So we're happy to have Kristen here. And then we also have Jessica Kaiser with us. And Jessica has 15 plus years experience working. She helps make this call tonight international because she's calling in from British Columbia, Canada, right? So your experience that you're bringing to us is what you do with youth and families, and you've worked inpatient and outpatient in behavioral health as well with a master's in community counseling. And we have Gina who joined us, right? Gina joined us. She's a licensed clinical counselor with a master's in counseling psychology. And so she's also worked with children, adolescents, and families for about 15 years. So, between all of us, we have some experience to share. And the biggest thing we want you to take away from tonight is that this is just the beginning of resources for you. We're going to be sending out some information in the form of a PDF that's linked resources that you can go back. So right now, we really just want you to listen to what we have to say. We'll take the notes for you. We'll send you the information. We'll get it all to you. And if you have questions, you can just follow up with whoever invited you here to the call. So to jump off, we're going to start by talking about nutrition. And I think this is the biggest draw for me because I had a hard time shaping my kids' palates and setting their expectations that meals were going to include vegetables, and it always felt like a fight until I found some resources that our colleagues are going to share about. But I found some resources that helped me kind of get the greens into their meals no matter what we were having, start their day with a good protein that was plant-based so that I knew that no matter what they were eating at school for hot lunch, that their guts were getting what it needed to fuel them throughout at least the morning until I could get my hands on them again after school. So I think that a lot of those tips can be individual for families, but the biggest thing we want to convey to you is that the gut is the second brain. And so by feeding and fueling your kids' gut nutrition, you're really, really giving their brain what it needs. I know Kristen wanted to add a little bit about adding greens to everything too.
Thanks, Kate. That was such an awesome introduction. And yeah, I think that a lot of people feel like, coming from those of us who have a Shackley business, it's been really easy for our kids to transition into this healthy type of lifestyle. And the reality is that we are just like you. And there are many things that we can do to improve our children's diet too. And we're doing it just like you. And we're going to share some tips on exactly how to do that. But when talking specifically about greens, this is one of my favorite products. It's so my favorite product that we are currently out of it. And it is a dehydrated greens product, and it is kale, broccoli, and spinach. And it is just this fine, lovely powder. Jess is actually holding that item up. You might have to talk about that in a second, Jess, while you are on the screen so you can show that lovely product. But, it's been really critical for me, not because my kids don't eat vegetables, because I am really blessed that my kids have eaten some vegetables throughout the years. It hasn't been that much of a struggle for us, but the variety was never really there until I started really challenging their palate. And, I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard this, but you have to introduce a food to a child upwards of 10 to 20 times for them to really decide whether they do or don't like it. And that's a challenge for us. And that's something that at the end of a long work day, when you're sitting down at dinner, that's a battle you might not be up for having. I don't know about you. So that's why this product is so phenomenal, is because you can add it to foods that they are already eating and enjoying. And whether you tell your children or not, because I know there's some in both camps, whether you tell or whether you don't tell, either way, it's getting that good nutrition into them. There are some great places that you can hide it that it really does not make a big taste difference. And that would be soups, spaghetti sauce, meatloaf, meatballs, anything that's savory like that. Chili is another one. You cannot taste this product in those types of recipes. Adding it to pudding, smoothies like Kate referred to, that morning smoothie or even that bedtime smoothie, adding it's a teeny tiny little cup into there really makes a big difference. Mac and cheese, salad dressings, taco meat or fajita meat, muffins, pancakes. I mean, the list really goes on, and it's only limited to what you're willing to try it in. Eggs is another big one. I will tell you that in eggs, mac and cheese, things like that, it will change the color, but it will not change the flavor. And all it does is boost the nutrition of the meal that you're presenting to your children. So it's just a win-win in my opinion.
And it's just so important because we see in behavioral health children and adolescents that aren't being well nourished, and we see the impact in that cascade that it tends to have on not only mood but motivation, energy levels, and also just their ability to even know what their body needs. Because when your body is deficient of certain vitamins and minerals, especially those that you can't always get, your body starts to crave, processed foods and fast foods and fats that aren't necessarily good. So the more we can get into our children in any form possible, the better. And I know in our resource guide that we're planning to share, there are some super fun tips about how to take even just the meals and food, like the things that Kristen suggested, and put them into containers that are fun and exciting for the kids to eat. There's those bento box, lunch boxes, and things like that. We have some examples of those that we'll be sharing with you as well. Did you want to say anything more about that, Kristen or Jeff?
Yeah, actually, I have one right here. So we wanted this to be a really practical experience for everybody on the call. And again, please check out our free resource guide that we've created specifically for you. It will have all the links to these great things we're showing you today. But I wanted to show you the one that we have used for the last, 5 years in my house. It's the Bentigo Kids Lunchbox. And you can see it fits right into a standard size school-age children's lunchbox, and it has 2 latches that fold down, and when you open it, this is what you see. The top has a rubber seal so that it seals down onto these little sections, so that even if you put salad dressing or if you put yogurt or something that's liquid in here, it will seal it tight and it does not spill and it does not incorporate into the other. I don't know if that's big for your kids, but like it cannot incorporate onto the other foods, or else, you know, there's a big hysterical mess. The nice thing about this is there's different sized sections, but then when they bring it home from school, and I was dreading having to show you how this works because I'm not good at it, but like this bottom part comes right out so easily, right? It separates and you can put both parts right in the dishwasher and they wash up easy peasy, which is something that I totally love. What I will tell you is that this size, and they have all different sizes, but this size has been sufficient for my kindergartner / first grade level. Once my daughter got to first grade, it was a little bit too small for her. There wasn't enough food that could fit into this one. So she has decided to graduate into another style that looks a little bit different than this, but this is the one that we have used religiously, and it's great for picnics or going to the park or going to the zoo or going to the beach. It insulates really well, and like I said, it keeps everything separated, and it doesn't crush. So I just love it.
And I think it helps make the lunch more fun. You know, like carrots can be just as cool as chips, but the problem is that when you pull out a bag of carrots, it's like, this is really appetizing for me. But when the kids have something to dip it with, or even something to show their friends, you know, I think that's one thing that does happen when we educate our kids from a family level at home, is that they spread it to other people and they say, why don't you try this? Or why don't you get some of this at home? Or they go home and ask their parents for that. Now, one of the things that actually prompted me to think about doing this call was from Jessica. She had shared a little bit about a book she found at a conference she'd attended that was about gut bacteria. It was like an illustrated book about gut bacteria. I don't know if you have it to share, but we'll be sure to add it into our resource guide. But it's so important to teach kids about whatever goes in their gut's going to change the way they feel. So Jessica, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Totally, I would love to. I wanted to share this because this was a resource that I picked up at a conference I went to on nutrition and kids health, and I bought it as a resource for work, right, to use in my office. But it was like a miracle worker with my daughter, which was so awesome, because it can be hard to get kids to take vitamins, right? So, and my kids have been pretty good, and it takes a lot of practice and a lot of repetition, but I could not get her to take our little probiotic. Anyway, so I picked up this book, and it's called Buddies in My Belly, and I just want to show you super quick because it is such a neat little resource. It breaks down some of the most common and important bacteria in our gut, right? And then it goes on to tell a story about each one of them, how they help us, what kind of foods they like, and then it talks about what kind of things they don't like. And I thought it was super cute. Okay, so here, they don't like sugar, right? It was super cute, but I'll tell you what, when my 8.5-year-old read this to my 4.5-year-old, the conversations about making sure we take good care of our buddies in our belly were like happening all the time. And Emmy started requesting the little probiotic. She's like, Mommy, I'm running out of buddies in my belly. I need more belly buddies. And it was
so cool.
It was such a cool resource, and it's such a well done book. And okay, best part, just have to share this. When I got it, it also came with these super ridiculously cute stuffies that match the ones in the story. And so she loves them. And I just thought it was such a cool resource. And I've shared it with some parents, and they have found it really helpful because it makes it real. It makes it practical for kids. And you know, if there's one thing that would be great for our kids to understand about gut health, it's about how important it is to take care of those little buddies in our gut. So just wanted to share that because I thought it was a super cute resource, and they loved it. That was a good one.
It is. I love that too. I love that it personifies the bacteria too, because I think from the world of guided imagery and music, which I have some experience with, it's very important that we visualize what our bodies are doing, whether it be when we're working out and we have a muscle that we're trying to contract, or trying to relax our body, or even trying to heal from a virus. I love showing my kids illustrations of what's happening in their bodies when the body has a fever, because we try not to suppress fevers in this house because we know they have a purpose. And when the kids understand that, then they come to me and they can tell me, my body's fighting off my fever. I have a sweat now, they can start to understand it. So having those bacteria can help even probably have conversations with those kids who are the toughest eaters, like pickiest eaters, and maybe those who have tummy troubles. I think that's a great idea to make it something tangible, because it's kind of abstract for a kid to understand. We around here love the book Everybody Poops, and we have some Usborne books that talk about how the food is digested in your body. Those are also really great resources, so we love that. So, but it is challenging, even though, many of us have this health and wellness nutrition business that like Kristen said, everybody thinks that our kids are like, the ones who get everything the way they're supposed to. Sometimes I struggle the hardest, especially with my tween, who is like, my vitamins this, my vitamins that, you always want me to take my vitamins. But, she learned moving on to sleep that there were certain nutritional supplements that helped her sleep better, not only to fall asleep, but to stay asleep. Especially calcium, magnesium, really she asks for it when she's having trouble falling asleep, and asks for, her osteomatrix when she can't feel, relaxed, because she knows what it does to help calm her muscles. And so we have a couple of sleep routines here that are pretty simple that I've pulled from my therapist toolkit in terms of using music to help relax the brain and subdue the fight or flight response that sometimes happens for my teenager and my younger child at bedtime. We'll talk about this more with behavioral health when Gina shares and Jessica and Kristen share again. But by having the opportunity to talk about what the big emotions are that are causing the fight or flight reaction, to calm the body and the muscle with something internal, beyond that warm glass of milk, right? Really giving that absorbable calcium, magnesium, then they tend to find a better routine to sleep because their body's already prepared. Now we just have to prepare their mind, because sometimes it's flipped depending on the person. So what I wanted to know is if, Jessica, you have more information you want to share about kind of calming that headspace at night through mindfulness, or even using other applications like diffusers and sights and sounds in the room. We use music. We create a bedtime routine. In our resource guide, I've included some songs for not only paying attention, but also there's a couple of albums that we'll include that really I feel are great bedtime routine albums, and some apps that include music as well.
Yeah, I love that. I'll just build off of what you were talking about. I think one of the key words when it comes to supporting our kids with sleep is routine. And I think we sometimes forget that, because adults tend to be a little bit more flexible in getting themselves to bed. Like, we can watch a different show before we go to bed and still fall asleep, and we can stay up later and it doesn't throw us off so much. But kids really thrive on routine. And so not only is it good to set up good schedules for our kids, and they will do better if the bedtime is pretty consistent, but the routines of activities that we build up leading to bedtime can be really helpful. Music is huge, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. And one of the things I think we need to remember is that whatever tools you're using, it's about using them often enough, practicing them often enough, that the brain makes a connection between that tool and between the activity that you want, right? So if you want this calming music to help them fall asleep, the more often you connect those two things, the more likely it'll become that you'll be able to turn that music off, and the brain will start to calm itself down because it's now expecting sleep, because that's the next thing that happens when we put on this soft music. And just to tie into that, one of the things that I have incorporated both in my home and often in my office are essential oils, because the sense of smell and our scent receptors are directly connected. They have a really strong direct pathway to the lower center part of our brain, which is why scent is such a powerful trigger for us, right? We can have memories that come back from 20 years later just by smelling grandma's cookies. Those sorts of things can happen, and it just shows you how powerful scent can be. And there are some essential oils that have a lot of research behind them that backs up that they have calming sort of properties. Lavenders are really, it's a go-to. A lot of us use lavender. So in my house, I have a diffuser in my kids' room, and I actually researched a few different scents that are all supposed to be sort of calming. And the kids came up with their own recipe for it, their own blend, which was so fun for them to kind of decide if they liked a couple drops of this and a couple drops of that. And so they can request that. And what I like about that is that they're taking charge of their own routine. So they know the things that help them sleep. And when they're struggling, like my eldest son will come out and say, "Mom, I need some CalMags, and I want my sleep spray," because that's the other option. So this is our little jar. I stole it from the kids' room. You can't read it, but this says sleep spray. So it's the same thing as a diffuser. It's just water with a few drops of their favorite essential oils that are calming, and you shake it up and you can spritz it in the room. I've recommended this for parents, and a lot of people come back and said it is helpful for kids to feel like they get to do something that creates that calming environment. And you can make roll-ons with the same sort of idea, right? Just a little bit of oil with a carrier oil like coconut oil, and they can apply those. I use that in my office a lot with anxious little kiddos. Having something like that in their school backpack means they can take those calming scents with them to school or to wherever they're going, and then apply them when they need to. So those are just some strategies that work, bringing scent into the routines that we are establishing to help our kids sleep.
And that's so important, yeah.
Oh, totally. Sorry. And I was just going to add, and in terms of the apps, we've got a list that we're going to put out in our resource guide. There are so many free apps that will walk you through a mindfulness exercise, meditation exercise. And the key with those is to find one and stick with it long enough for it to become a habit. And my kids use those all the time, and they love them. And there are some really cool ones that are for young kids, and there are some ones all the way up to Insight Timer, which I think I put on the list, which has thousands of free ones that adults can use too. So I love to recommend that to people to try. It can be really useful when you're trying to establish a really healthy bedtime routine. So those are some big tips there.
Can I interject?
And I'm glad you mentioned it. Gina's going to talk a little bit about the behavioral health aspect of the structure that you mentioned in having the routine, but it's important that to just reiterate that we're talking about school-aged kids here. Like, you can start a routine as young as infancy, but we're sort of talking about, those kids that are becoming a little more independent and want to have those choices and want to have control and empowerment over the routine. And the more you can do that for them, then the more they can be preconditioned that it's sleep time when they do certain activities like listen to music or use the diffuser or taking their nighttime protein shake, So Gina's going to talk a little bit about how maybe some of that structure can help with the behavioral routines and rewards that we get when we're with our kids.
So I will definitely, I have some of the things that I kind of use around our house to work with some of the kids. I will start out by saying that I spent probably about 7 years without having kids of my own, teaching other people how to work with kids. Then I had my own and realized it's not what it sounds like in textbooks. So the first thing I realized is we needed structure pretty quickly. So we do morning routines. And so our morning routine, Parenting 101, I was going to make this all pretty for this presentation. Then this day happened and I didn't get a chance. So this is reality, what my morning routine looks like. So basically, we just kind of break down what we need to do every day. And I don't know, can you guys see that? So we break down per day what we need to do. And I kind of just break it up based on what kind of they're not doing in that morning. But I have 4 kids, and getting them out the door every morning is like, we're like a show for the neighborhood, I'm telling you. So this is what we do. Our big thing that's on here is I try and do incorporate the vitamins, them eating healthy. These are all on our morning chart. So the bottom part I also do is, which I don't know if you can see, but we do kind voice, calm voice, kind words. And if they do all of those checks, they get extra points towards our reward system. Well, I have found that having the structure in our house takes away a huge power struggle in the morning. Because what you can do is the kids get overwhelmed, we get overwhelmed, and there's just so much verbal overstimulation going on that it can cause too many power struggles. So all I have to do is point to a chart, say this is what we have to do. They get a check for it, and then it helps things progress a little more. So that's kind of what I think morning routines are really big for, because it kind of can help the expectations start with the day. We kind of set up a reward system where our kids, for how many checks they earn, can earn Kind Kid Cash. This is our Kind Kid Cash. So they accumulate that and they get to spend it at the end of the week. So that's kind of just what routines have been in our house to do. And
so it's like a reward and a token system. That sounds great.
It is. So basically what we're looking at trying to do is get the kids to be part of their routine. They're involved in it. They're invested in it. They know, they help set up the routine. And I think having kids be part of the whole process is really helping put ownership. And like Jess, you were saying, is as they're getting older, owning it is a big part of it. So I think that having them being part of establishing it, earning the rewards, and then the second part that we try and do is kind of, we talked about behavioral goals, is having them make their own kind of behavioral goals, and these are all on the resource sheet. But we set up certain specific goals that they're working on for the week. So, for example, right now we're in Lent, and for our family for Lent we do healthy eating. So right now that's a goal they're doing, is like healthy eating. So they accumulate all these things and they work towards rewards. And so we're trying to kind of really reinforce that structure in our house. We have a lot of little of these kind of things in my house, but it's because it kind of keeps the flow to it. So yeah, I have a lot more I could say on it, but I will just put all those resources on the links, and then if anyone has any questions on anything, I'd be happy to share more.
That'd be great. That would be great. And I don't know if Kristen has a minute or so that she wants to mention this, but one of the things I thought about, Gina, when you said that you involve them in everything, was cleaning, because like that's one thing that I can't really get my kids to do. But they were motivated when we got our Shackley Get Clean kit, because I was more like letting them try the cleaners because they don't have toxins in them. You know, they're non-toxic and they're safe and they're highly diluted, but still effective. So like they were really, you know, getting things done for us and feeling productive and helpful. And by using it, actually, they didn't realize it, but I took that advice from a physician to get the Get Clean Kit products into our home, so that, and the toxins out, because it was impacting my daughter's behavior, because she was going through some, you know, kind of compulsory thoughts and intrusive thoughts and things that, you know, we didn't connect it to not only what she was eating, but what we were using in our home to clean. Kristen,
isn't that crazy? I don't think that we connect a lot of the stuff that that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, like eczema, allergies, skin irritations, psoriasis. You know, all of those things can have a really strong connection to our environment and what we're exposed to on a daily basis. And we're exposed to we're just assaulted every day in this day and age with all kinds of toxins. And I think what's neat is, because if you think about it that way, it seems very overwhelming, right? Wherever we go, wherever we drive, any environment that we're in, anytime we go to a restaurant or a gym or your work, you know, there's factors you cannot control. And my favorite part about what I did when I first changed our cleaning products was, I thought, you know, our home is the place where I have control. And I can't control what's going on in the kids' school, that I have to, you know, watch the big bins of Clorox wipes go into the school, where there have been plenty of studies at this point to prove that those are 100% detrimental to our kids' health. And if you're interested in any of that information, whoever invited you to this call can link you to that information. And there's been many studies about that. But I thought, I can control it in my house. And I think you're right, Kate. The minute that we decided to eliminate toxins from our home and our laundry and underneath our sink, Morgan, my youngest, was about 1 or 1.5 at the time. And, you know, I found her under the kitchen sink. Like sometimes we find our kids digging in, and she had dumped the whole container of Shackley dishwash all over her lap, and who knows what she was doing. And this was all in the matter of, you know how that happens. You feel like it's 5 seconds that you turn around, and they do that. And I remember feeling such a sense of relief that I had decided several months earlier to go ahead and change my cleaning products, because I did not have to call poison control, and I did not have to worry about what she was getting into. I think that what's the extra side benefit to that, which you will find with many Shackley products, there are side benefits, not side effects, is that my oldest daughter had terrible eczema on the back of her knees, which I was told by everybody was normal and was something that would go away. And, you know, most kids get it and it's no big deal. We made a few dietary changes. We added a probiotic, like Kate was talking about, and we changed these cleaning products, and her eczema is completely gone and has been for many years. It's stayed away, is my point. And we have story upon story we can tell you, but the best part is that you can have your kids participate in the cleaning, like Kate said, and this stuff really works. It's a very minimal cost to invest in a Get Clean kit. The icing on the cake is that when you buy a Get Clean kit, Shackley will plant a tree in your honor for doing so. And so it's a feel good all around. I feel like it's a win-win-win. It's safe for our kids. It helps their health issues. It helps us control what we have going on in our homes, and it helps the environment and the planet. And I just think that that's a wonderful place to be.
It is, but it really is like the reason we're here, right? Which is to have sustainability and resiliency in our lives through whether it is toxic exposure to something we can't control. Shackley does support, that sustainability of our earth, which is the greatest gift we can give our kids, even though they might not be behaving some days, right? So resiliency is really important, and it's one of the topics that we wanted to share with you tonight a little bit in terms of behavioral health as well as physical health for our kids when it comes to exercise and movement. Our resource guide, like we've mentioned before, will have all of these ideas that we didn't get time to share too much on, but I do want to ask if maybe Jess can talk a little bit about why it's important to have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset in our parenting as well as with teaching our children. There's some resources in the Big Life Journal, but also just a general way of thinking and being in a growth mindset is really important for their self-esteem and resiliency.
Totally. When I was sitting trying to think about what to share, because I could probably talk for hours and hours on how we build self-esteem in kids and how we work on resiliency, that ability to bounce back. I come back to the growth mindset because it's a core sort of concept and idea that we can apply to our own lives as adults, that we can instill in our little people at any age. It's a really valuable and profound way of looking at the world. I we won't spend tons of time on it because we're going to put lots of resources in the resource guide for you, but I just wanted to hold this up for a second. This is the Mindset book by Carol Dweck, who's actually the researcher who originated the idea of growth mindset. And just to simply define it, it's the difference between someone who has a fixed mindset where they get stuck a lot, or someone who has a growth mindset where they're able to move forward and continue to grow and to continue to learn. And she has so many examples in this book of how to do that. But one example I like to share with parents when I'm working in my office is just how changing the way we talk to ourselves in our heads and changing the way we talk to kids can be incredibly powerful, even with small changes. And so I love to use the example of the small word yet, W-Y-E-T. That's a word that can change entirely how we look at something and how our kids look at something. So for example, if your child comes home and says something like, I can't do this math, that's a stuck place to be. And it's really hard to help our kids dig out of that when they feel so stuck, right? They feel like they can't do something. It's not a flexible place. It's not flexible thinking. But if you stick the word yet on the end of that and it becomes, I can't do this math yet, it changes the whole thing, because now it's not something that I can't do. It's something I'm working on. I'm trying to get through. And that's what the growth mindset is about. It's about helping kids build the capacity to try hard, to keep trying, to work through challenges, and to not feel discouraged by them, but actually to feel like challenges are a good thing because they mean we're growing. I'm going to throw a couple resources up for you to look at, because I think that this is something we can use at all ages. So the first one is all my stacks of stuff all over. So this is the Big Life Journal, and this is one of the most popular resources out there for helping kids learn about growth mindset. It's got all sorts of cool journal pages. But what I would suggest people do is go to the Big Life Journal website. You can sign up for their free emails, and they send out tons of free resources. For example, this is something that I use with my kids. It's all these cute little cards that you can cut out with fun growth mindset images or messages like your persistence can move mountains. I stick these in my kids' lunch sometimes. They're just simple little things, but they have so many free resources that really are about shifting our thinking. Free ones for parents, how to developing problem solving for kids, 50 positive phrases to give to your kids for when we're trying to come up with some positive things to say. And just to let you know, I know we're focusing more on school age kids, but they also have a journal for teenagers. And I've given this out to a couple teenagers who have actually found it really valuable that I work with. So lots of cool resources around growth mindset. And I just think it's a really good one for all of us to look at, because it's not it's not super academic. This book is great. She really goes over the science behind why shifting mindset can be so powerful. And it's something that if we practice adopting it as parents and we start using that language, it's amazing how quickly you'll see your kids pick it up and start using them themselves. It's a really cool one to watch.
I think we could do a whole session we could do on mindset, couldn't we?
Yeah.
That's our next one. We'll schedule. What I think is interesting, though, you mentioned in the last segment just now about parents, and I just want everybody to realize that you are not expected to do this alone. The four of us have a little bit of experience, not to say that it's working with our children, but at least we have some experience on where to find these types of places for help. But I want you to make sure that you are using your community and your resource guides right in your own community. This is our town park district bulletin. Whether you're in a park district or you have a community guide, please refer to that. Ask your schools what types of programs they're running. A lot of times these types of programs fall under the socio-emotional type of programs, and it's really important that you know what's going on, especially at your kids' school. I know my kids' school has a program called Second Step, and it's a curriculum for the public school based on talking a lot about emotions and relationships and behaviors and things like that are a little bit separate than math or science or social studies. Our park district offers a few things, and most importantly, one of the really cool programs that we have found in our area, but it is a national program, so I encourage you to look it up. I have two girls, and it's a program called Girls on the Run. Girls on the Run is a program that is specific toward 3rd through 6th grade girls. It is run through, I believe it can be run through a park district too, but it's primarily run through schools with the teachers at the schools being the coaches. They get trained. And basically what it is it's a 12 to 16 week program where they train the girls to run a 5K race. And the nice part is that they stay after school. So it's a nice break for the parents to alleviate, pick up 1 or 2 days a week, and you leave your students there, and they gather with a group of girls where they talk about, they have a topic for the day, and it's all laid out and it's all ready to go, and it's a topic for the day. They usually do a little service project at the school. For example, my daughter and the Girls on the Run program has wiped down the tables in the cafeteria, or they picked up garbage around the school. So it's a little bit of time for a project that's specific to girls. It's geared toward a little service project, and then they do their running training for the day. And, it was a program that my daughter joined last year, and she was the only 3rd grader who was involved at her school. And this year she went in as a 4th grader, and she has 4 friends that joined because of her reaction and her recommendation about the program. It's wonderful. It's life-giving. It's self-esteem boosting. It's girl empowerment. It's inclusion-based, and it's a really, really neat program. And so that's something I wanted to mention. Why am I mentioning this? Well, I am a recreational therapist. I am now retired, but I did work for 14 years specifically with children and adolescents and young adults from 3rd grade to age 21 in a therapeutic day school environment. So kids who couldn't thrive in their homeschool environment needed a little bit more specific attention, and did that for the majority of my tenure as a professional. And I was a recreational therapist, and a lot of people don't know what recreational therapy is. So I'm just going to give you the definition from recreationaltherapy.com, and that is the purpose of recreational therapy process is to improve or maintain physical, cognitive, social, emotional, and spiritual functioning in order to facilitate a full participation in life. Services are provided or directly supervised by a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. So I was nationally certified to do so. So what does that include? It includes, but is not limited to, recreational activities including a variety of techniques like arts, crafts, animals, sports, games, dance, movement, drama, music, community outings. It helps physical, mental, emotional well-being of the clients by reducing depression, stress, anxiety, basic motor functioning, reasoning abilities, building confidence, and to socialize. We work very closely with social workers and other mental health professionals to meet the students' needs and to meet the kids' needs. And this was really a profound profession for me, and where my desire to help others, regardless of what their situation was, came from. And I've been lucky enough to retire from that career, but I get to use a lot of those skills in my Shackley business as well now, because I have a lot of people coming to me with specific health concerns that it's really exciting that I get to help them. So I have a background, but I also have a passion for helping others.
And I love that you brought in that recreational therapy is so whole person, because I think even with, regular counseling and therapy, that it is so important that, techniques help reshape the behavioral aspects of it. Sometimes when you can educate by doing, learn by doing, help the kids use their whole body and whole brain, then the emotions start to unlock a little bit and a little more processing can happen. Maybe the next time they go to their counselor or to their verbal therapist or to their social worker at school. And so, it comes kind of full circle that tonight we've really talked about supporting the whole body, the whole child, the whole mind. And yes, we've talked about nutrition and we talked about sleep and supplements that will help that, but also activities and routines and schedules and, the rewards. Gina, that was so helpful to see your morning routine, your daily routine. And we've included those resources in the charts, or those charts in that resource, that guide that we're handing out too. So this is really just the beginning of these conversations that we're hoping to have with not only you, but you can also have with your customers. And then as customers, you can come to those of us who've invited you to the call so that you can really learn about specific resources for those specific needs that your kids go through. And hopefully you've taken the time during this 40-minute call to just take a breath as a parent and realize what Gina said and what Jessica said and Kristen reiterated, that we're not doing this alone. Again, selfishly, I wanted to do this call so that I could learn some new tips and resources too, because I've about had it up to here with some of my kids for the time being, but really got some good ideas of simple things that I need to just readjust. And the best reminder we can give is that just try something new that you learned tonight on the call, or that you're going to pick up from the resource guide. Try one new thing and see how it goes. And you might see it yielding very, very big results. Do any of our presenters tonight have anything last minute they want to add that we didn't get a chance to cover? What about any questions that people might have? So reach out if you do have questions. We recorded this call, so we'll go ahead and send it out, and you can share it with other people. And if you come back and have questions, then we're here for you. So thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, because I know it's so valuable.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much for being on tonight.